Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Energy Works. I'm here with Blaine today. Hi, Blaine.
Hi, Lauren.
And we are here doing a follow up on one of our podcasts that got a lot of feedback, a lot of traction, a lot of comments, and that was our conversation about getting to do something versus having to do something versus wanting to do something. And we kind of use the idea of, generally talk about things like maybe cleaning your house, right? So like, oh, I have to go clean my house today. I have to organize my office, or I've got to take my car in to get the tires changed. And instead, changing that language to, I get to do that. And I get to do the dishes. My husband is a perfect example because he spent a lot of time in the backcountry with his work. And in the backcountry, when you're camping and you're cooking, you do your dishes right away because you're in bear country. And so you cook your food, and then you haul your water from the lake or from the river, and you heat the water up, and you clean all the dishes, and then you strain the water, and you keep all the any little bits of food. Those go back into the trash so that you pack them out. And when he's at home, he's like, it's so easy. I just turn the faucet on and hot water comes out. And why wouldn't I just do the dishes right away? He feels like I get to do this. It's easy. It's joyful. My hands get warm. He loves that. Me, on the other hand, I let the dishes sit in the sink, and it's like, oh, I've got to go do the dishes. And you hear that in I have to go do the dishes. And so Blaine and I talked about that, the languaging of it, and how when you flip it to I get to do that, it really does change something for you. The gratitude that we have, that we want to have, that we can have for the abundance and ease in our lives, when we know that there's so many other ways of living and being that are more challenging. And so, I have to clean my office today. It's like, I have an office. That's amazing. I have a job that provides for that. I have the space. I have a roof over my head. I have warmth. I have, all of the things. So I get to do that. And it really does shift something when you move from that idea that things are onerous to that things are a gift. And I love that. And Blaine also brought up the idea of wanting to do something. And that when you express that desire, it also triggers something in you that enlarges your capacity to do something. So if, for example, my husband wants to do the dishes, and therefore he does do the dishes, and he feels no resentment about it at all. And I was really kind of rubbing wool, I guess, with Blaine about that. If you know that term, rubbing wool, how the sheep go against each other often and kind of rub out the little inconsistencies, or they go against the fences and they kind of rub their bodies to kind of get out the things that aren't feeling right. And so Blaine and I kind of were rubbing wool a little bit about that, because I was saying, well, I want to express as something different. I'm going to let her talk about that. And that I get to is really more of an elevated topic, or an elevated word to use. So before I get into why we're coming back to talk about this, I want to turn it over to Blaine to share a little bit about her move and motivation towards using the language I want to instead of I have to, and also instead of I get to. So Blaine, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and from the previous episode, I will drop down in the notes what the previous episode was. I had read an article about I want to, and the framing of the article was kind of I want to versus I get to. And I guess the intention behind it was in the realm of behavior change. And so if you have been trying to meditate, right? And you're trying to set up a meditation habit. I have to meditate. And then you're trying to make it like, I get to meditate. And the point of this article was, I want to meditate. Because why would you be constantly in your head, like, I need to start a meditation habit. I need to start a meditation. If there wasn't something in you that really believed that that was going to be helpful for you. And so, do you want to start a meditation habit and just, coming to this place where it's something that I want to do? It's not something that I have to do. It's not something that I get to do. It's something that I want to do. When we're thinking about habit change or journaling or, not eating sugar. I want to stop eating sugar, right? Like there's something in you that's saying you should stop eating sugar, but you keep not doing it. So can you say, I want to give up sugar. I want to stop drinking. Because there's something in you that knows that you need to do that. So can you really make yourself frame it in such a way that the good outweighs the bad? And so you want to do it. And so that is where, like Lauren said, we were kind of rubbing wool because she was like, I don't know about that. So Lauren, back to you.
Yeah. And, I remember also long ago, but hearing this argument, let's say, for that if you use the word want, what you're getting is the want. So that all you ever have is the want, the desire, but you're never actually manifesting the meditation practice or the dishes being done, because what you're saying is I want, and what your body hears is want, right? Have you heard that before as well? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did she address that in the article that you read? No. Okay. So
no, it was really focused on if you're working on this habit change, there's something in you that wants to do it, or else you wouldn't be having this internal dialogue with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So Blaine, brought that up, and I really was just pushing back on the want, and saying, you get to. And so, we did the podcast, and as is often the case, I went away and, debriefed and thought about it for a long time, actually. For days I was chewing. I was like, why was I so resistant to the word want? What is that about? And I really sat with it for a while. And what percolated to the surface is a few things, but using that word, it's a very powerful word to say that you want something. It's a very active word. It's very powerful. It's grounded into this desire. And what I discovered was that I was almost hesitant. I'm going to use a more powerful word. I was almost unable to actually determine what it is that I wanted. And I was using that get to, have to dichotomy to avoid the fact that I was really troubled with identifying what it is that I wanted. And when I started to journal around it, I was like, okay, I'm just going to use this word. What is it that I want, and why am I so hesitant to use it? And I'll kind of backtrack a little bit, because I think one of the reasons being, and some of you know me, you've read my books, you know that I've had a lot of trauma in my life. And if you, one of the outcomes, downstream effects of trauma, is the inability to ask for what you want and expect that you are going to get anything that you want, to even identify what it is that you want. And it can even go as far as I've been with people in restaurants that sit with a menu for everyone else's meal has come, and they still can't decide what it is they want to even just to eat. It can be that debilitating to be able to assert your own autonomy and your own desires out into the world. And so I was really feeling that, wow, is this still a kind of shade of trauma response that I'm still feeling? And I really think that it was, because I had such that pushing away. And I notice in myself, when I'm pushing so actively against something, there is juice there. There's something for me to investigate. So I investigated this piece of desire. And it was really fun to play with, because I got to then finally determine what it is that I want, and to say that, and to be forceful with it, and also compassionate with myself for even thinking oh, I just did this whole podcast that, you should, which again, I'm doing quotes if you're not seeing me, I'm doing air quotes. You should use the words I get to instead of I want to. And here I am revising my whole opinion on it, because it really started to get to the place where I thought, this is really powerful. It was powerful for me to sit down and articulate what it is that I want, and then to go a step further and use the practice that Blaine was talking about. Well, why aren't I doing the things that I say that I want to do? It got really juicy and it got really powerful, and enough that I felt like it was important enough to come back and talk to Blaine again about it, because it was really transformative for me. And I wanted to share that with her and with all of you, that if you are in my team on thinking that I get to is more powerful, then I also want to put that challenge out to you. And so, Blaine, what do you think about that?
I think it's really brave of you to come back and want to readdress it, you know, with me when we have off camera, and then with the listeners too, because obviously it was impactful for you. And it takes a lot for us to say, I was wrong. Hold on. And to start to peel back the onion, I think it's a great, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but when you feel so strong about something, it's like, okay, what am I? Like, why did I like shove the like stake in the ground on this so hard? What is that about? What am I fighting for? Or what am I defending or whatever? So I think that it's really courageous that you did that and pulled back. And, what was really powerful to me that you said was the trauma part. And I think that probably many listeners can relate to not wanting to own your want. Like, it's worthiness, right? I guess that's where, because I myself have worthiness issues that I really only in the last 5 years been like, you know what? I mean, this and this and this and this, they're all worthiness issues that I have, but are you worthy of that one? Do you deserve that one? And then again, is that if you've been in a situation in your life where you're kind of trying to make yourself small and not draw attention to yourself and, keep the peace, like outwardly stating that you want something is a pretty bold move in maybe a not safe household. And so I can see how that kind of patterning can get ingrained. Do you feel like that's how it was for you?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think so. And, what you had said also made me extrapolate out that, that making yourself small piece. And I especially think for a lot of women, because we can sort of tend to either feel like we're second-class citizens or actually be second-class citizens. And that, especially a lot of, mothers, caretakers, where everyone else's needs and desires come first, and you just take the crumbs of whatever's left, and then you're never even asked, like, what is it that you want? And, the last couple of books that we've read in my book club have been about women that have sort of bucked the historical trends of being invisible and denied even the question of what is it that you want. And when you really strip it down like that to its essential nature, that you have wants that are valid and valuable, and the word that you said, and that you are worthy of, that's centering yourself and empowering yourself. And that is something that we've not been trained to do. And so it can feel very dangerous. It can feel very dangerous to say that you want something, especially if it's different. You expressed in a podcast a long while back about when you were a child and you were like, I don't want to eat meat anymore. In a family and an estate that was like, we are a meat-eating family and we are a meat-eating state. And you were like, I don't want this anymore. And you asserted your autonomy at a very young age, which is remarkable and very, there might be other situations that would be very, really dangerous to do. And I wonder, did you get any pushback on that? I sort of switched tracks a little bit, but like to have that that, autonomy at such a young age, right, is pretty powerful.
Yeah, it is. There are so many things. I think we can all look back, though. I don't think it's just me. And we're like, I can't believe I did that. Just like
Yeah.
I can't believe I did that. There are many things I look back and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I did that. But yeah, like I don't want to eat meat anymore. I wouldn't say I got pushback. I mean, really what happened was I was 12. And so my mother was like, is she anorexic? Or does she want attention? Or, that was kind of, so she was very much, just had her eye on me. And, does she want to pick a fight? You know what I mean? The mother-daughter thing at that time is a little, tenuous. And so my mother literally said, I am not cooking you anything. My parents were divorced. They got divorced when I was 10. So it was my mom and my brother and I at that point. And so I think she was just like, I'm not cooking you special meals. You're not special or different in this family, but she already was, the kind of type, we had like the meat plus 3 kind of thing, it's like you can eat the bread and you can eat the vegetables. And if you want to make yourself something, go for it. I'm not making you special meals. Of course, many years later, when I was still vegetarian, she would make me special meals, like when it stuck. And I went on to like high school and college and, that sort of thing. But I think she was more just like, what is going on with this kid? And I'm just going to keep my eye on her and make sure that, this isn't some sort of signal of a deeper problem.
That is so interesting in light of this conversation, because when you express your wants, you are in effect defining yourself around those. I want to be the person who meditates every day. I want to be, and then those wants lead to the action that then becomes the manifestation. I want to be a meditator, and then I am a meditator. I am a person who meditates every day. I want to not eat meat, and then I am the person who does not eat meat, and then I am the vegan, right? So it's taking those steps that determine, and the fact that your mother gave you that space and opening to do that, to express your wants and to follow through on those, is very powerful. And maybe that is what leads us to where you and I differed, that you were able to just express, this is what I want. And when I came around to that myself, I recognized the power in it. And it was really, I mean, I do everything that I want to do. Like, I live a life that is very surrounded with exactly what I want to do. I have created my life very intentionally, and it is the life that I want to live. And still, when faced with that word, I was pushing back against it. And so even though I do what I want to do, to say that, to express that, and to be very clear about what my wants are and diswants, or unwants, I don't know what the negative of that would be. It felt not like an act of rebellion. It just felt powerful in a way that when we were having the conversation, it felt dangerous.
Yeah, I'm kind of connecting these dots as you say that. If you've read James Clear, Atomic Habits, one of his themes in the book that comes out pretty early in the book is identity. And that's, in his formation of habits sort of thing, it's, the runner. I think he uses the runner example, or maybe it's just exerciser, but it's, I want to be a runner, right? Like someone could say, like, I want to be a runner. Okay, so what does a runner do, right? So if I'm going to be a runner, then, 4 times a week, I have to set my alarm and like get up in the morning or whatever and like run. And so you go through this period where like you want to be a runner, but you don't have a habit yet of being a runner. And so you're trying to create these foundational habits, maybe set out the running clothes, put it in your calendar, set your alarm at the right time, have your little banana ready or whatever, hydrate, whatever, just all the little things you've got to do to make yourself have this runner. And so you do it, right? So, a lot of people do it 2 or 3 times and quit, so he's, connecting the dots. And what he says, it's when you eventually you have the identity. Like you said, I am a vegan, like you have the identity, I am a runner. And that's in his book, he says that's when you've got your habit. Because then once you identify yourself as a runner, well, what does a runner do? A runner runs. And so if I stop running, I am no longer a runner. And so now I've lost this identity. And so if you can bring this identity to yourself, then your habit, it's not even, the habit is so ingrained in you, it's just who you are. And that is kind of how he steps through it. And so I think in the umbrella of this conversation, I love this, starting with the I want, like owning it. Like I want to be a runner. Family, I'm going to get up early. You're on your own for making your breakfast. Right? I'm going to be out the door running. This is something I want. And when I'm working with women, when I used to before and still a little bit one-on-one or even just friends, asking the people around you for support, I think is a big thing. If you're trying to change your diet or you're trying to make time to exercise or your hobby or go have coffee with your friends or whatever, if that's not something your family's used to you to doing, like step up and say, this is something I want. Will you please support me? And that can be hard. I mean, I've seen it. That can be really hard for women to say. But if we can get to that, I mean, you got to own it and then kind of ask for it and find the support for it and then do the steps. And then I am a meditator. I am a runner. I am a vegan. I have been doing all these things for years and years and years. And I don't want to stop doing them because they are baked into, I mean, it's the ego self-identity. It's like, I like the Blaine who does these things.
I love that. I love that about asking support too from your family and your community. And I think a really great way to start is really how I started, which is to just grab your journal and just to write down all of the things that you want and to use that word, like I want this, I want this, I want this, and notice what comes up. If what comes up is, pushback or resistance or just leaning forward, right? The joy of that. But that you take the time to identify the things that you want in your life. And you can categorize them. You can go, from little ones to big ones, big to little, your career. Like you can do it around everything. But that you just get really clear on what your desires are. Because as your wants, as Blaine so eloquently said, they end up, in the best case, defining you in the way that you want to be defined, right? And so that's really powerful as well to take autonomy. And again, to kind of circle it back to the trauma response. When you've had any kind of trauma, generally you've lost your autonomy in that moment, and maybe for time after that, it can be years, decades after that, you don't feel that you are valued for what you want because of whatever happened, that it wasn't what you wanted, right? In whatever realm of trauma that happened, it generally isn't what you quote, again, my air quotes, it isn't what you want to have happened. And so then you can internalize that your wants are irrelevant because these things happen to you. So obviously what I want doesn't matter. And I think really what we're here to say today is that your wants really do matter. They matter incredibly important. And so I want to share a little technique that is that I use often. It's sort of just about coming back to yourself, because again, we can get really sideswiped with what other people want from us or what we think other people want or need. And we can really forget that at the beginning of every day, I know a lot of people say at the end of the day, you're with yourself, but you're also with yourself at the very beginning of the day. When you just wake up in the morning, even if you're lying in bed next to someone, you are just you. You are the drop. We know we're also the ocean, but you are also the discrete drop. And it's morning and night that you get the opportunity to really come back to yourself and recognize that as your own drop, you have autonomy and your desires matter. And so this little technique is helpful for bringing that into the energetic systems to bear. And it's really simple to do. you're just going to take your hands and interlace them. So you're kind of crossing all of your fingers over each other. You're just like entwining your fingers with each other. I'm not sure how else to say that if you're listening but not seeing what we're doing. You always can jump over to YouTube to see these videos, but I'm really just clasping my hands together with all of my fingers interlaced. And then I'm going to take both of my thumbs, and one thumb is going to go right below the bottom lip, and one thumb is going to go right above the top lip. And then we're going to take a few deep breaths. You can do these breaths in the nose and out the mouth, or in and out the nose. And let's just do 2 breaths together. One more breath. It's just a really quick way of just coming right back to yourself. It connects the 2 meridians that circle the core of the body, that is literally about keeping the integrity of you in alignment. And Blaine, how did that feel to you?
Super calming. I love it. I have a yoga teacher friend who calls doing your hands like that basket weave hands. In case that is helpful for people, like if you're taking your foot or something, she says basket weave hands.
That's great. Thank you. Yes.
If that's helpful for listeners. Yeah, I could really, I knew that we were on central and governing meridian while we're doing it. And I definitely felt it's like we have I'll use the term zipped up. And we have something called the zip up, which is different, but works with the same meridians. And I did kind of felt like the zip up, this like tightening and drawing in towards the center and connecting and like grounding, the central core of me, like pulling away from the irrelevant. And just kind of coming to the center, to the relevant.
Oh, I like that. Pulling away from the irrelevant. Maybe that's the title of this podcast. I love that. Yeah. And, that's a really fun one to do when you're in bed, before you get out of bed in the morning, or before you go to bed at night. It also, because your fingers are all woven together in that basket weave, it feels very prayerful. And so it's sort of like a deep internal prayer to the self of, let me feel okay. Let me feel solid and good so that I can bring my true self forward, which is really what you're saying when you want something, is you're bringing your essential nature forward and determining your specificity in this world. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in to this part 2, where I really got to say what I wanted to say. So thank you. Thanks all for tuning in. Thank you, Blaine, for bringing this topic up in the first place. Appreciate it all so much.
All right. Yeah, it is fun to have a part 2 for a podcast. I can see in the future we may have some more follow-ups, because time moves on and our consciousness changes and we're allowed to change our mind. So I'm glad that we're doing that here. And like Lauren said, thanks for listening, everybody. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.